But rugby was the start of his friendship with Tolkien. Both played in the red strip of Measure's house, named after the schoolmaster who ran it, and partook in its bitter rivalry with the boys in green from Richards. Later they took their place in the scrum in the school's first 15. But they experienced a meeting of minds. Wiseman, a year younger than Tolkien, was his intellectual equal and chased him up the academic ladder at King Edward's. Both lived in the Birmingham suburb of Edgbaston, Christopher in Greenfield Crescent and John Ronald latterly a street away in Highfield Road. They would walk along Broad Street and Harborne Road between home and school, immersed in passionate debate. Wiseman was a liberal in politics, a Wesleyan Methodist by religion, and a musician by taste, while Tolkien was naturally conservative, a Roman Catholic, and, thought Wiseman, tone deaf. Theirs was an unlikely partnership, but all the richer for it. They discovered that they could argue with an incandescence few friendships could survive, and their disputes only served to seal the intensely strong bond between them. In recognition of this, they called themselves privately the Great Twin Brethren. Even their closest friend on and off the rugby pitch, Vincent Traught, did not share this bond. When Tolkien's final term at King Edward's arrived, he briefly became librarian. To help him run his little empire, he recruited Wiseman, who insisted that Traught must join him as a fellow sub-librarian. Tolkien's place at Oxford was by this time assured, and he could relax. Soon the library office became unsuitably lively, but the coterie that gathered there could afford to test the headmaster's patience because his son, Robert Quilter Gilson, was also in the thick of things. All of Tolkien's friends were capable of intellectual seriousness. They dominated every school debate and play, and they formed the backbone of the Literary Society, to which Tolkien read from the Norse sagas, Wiseman expounded on historiography, Gilson enthused about the art critic John Ruskin, and Traught delivered a remarkable paper remembered as almost the last word on the Romantics. By dint of their enthusiasm, this artistic little clique wrested school life from the hands of boys who would otherwise have controlled it. In the polarised world of school politics, it was effectively a triumph for Measure's house over Richard's house, the red against the green, but to Tolkien and his friends it constituted a moral victory against cynics who, as Wiseman put it, sneered at everything and lost their temper at nothing. Much of the time the chief goal of the librarians was much less high-minded, however, and they sought only to incapacitate each other with laughter. In the summer of 1911, the hottest in 4 decades, Britain boiled in a stew of industrial unrest, and in the words of one historian, the sweltering town populations were psychologically not normal. The library cubbyhole became a hotbed of cultural stratagems, surreal wit, and tomfoolery. While the dead hand of exams laid hold of much of the rest of the school, the librarians brewed clandestine teas on a spirit stove, and established a practice whereby each had to bring in titbits for secretive feasts. Soon the tea club was also meeting outside school hours in the tea room at Barrow's Stores, giving rise to an alternate name, the Barrovian Society. In December 1913, though Tolkien has been at Oxford for over 2 years, he remains a member of the Tea Club and Barrovian Society, or the TCBS as it is now known. The clique still meets for Barrovians and is still largely devoted to drollery. Its membership has always fluctuated, but Christopher Wiseman and Rob Gilson remain at its heart, along with a more recent initiate, Geoffrey Bache Smith. On the rugby pitch today, the TCBS is represented by all 4, as well as by Wiseman's fellow three-quarterback Sidney Barraclough. But Tolkien is missing an excellent fullback in Vincent Traught. The TCBS's first loss, he died nearly 2 years ago after a long illness. The incentive for today's Oxford and Cambridge players is social as much as sporting. What with yesterday's debate, today's match, and tonight's dinner, this is a major reunion of old school friends. It is this, not the rugby itself, that brings the highly sociable Rob Gilson to take his place in the scrum. He also stood in at the last minute for the ailing Tolkien in the debate. His passion is for pencil and charcoal rather than mud and sweat. It is hard to say which feature most clearly declares his artistic nature, his sensuous, almost pre-Raphaelite mouth, or his calmly appraising eyes. His chief delight is in the sculptors of the Florentine Renaissance.